Lindsey Graham's career has been a wild ride, filled with dramatic shifts and unexpected turns. He's become one of the most recognizable figures in American politics, known for his unapologetic Republican views, controversial stances, and sometimes unpredictable behavior. His political evolution has been anything but conventional, and his personal life remains one of the most guarded and intriguing aspects of his public persona. Behind the curtains of power and policy, there are secrets about his life that few people know. To fully understand the enigmatic South Carolina senator, we need to dig deeper into his background, his rise to prominence, and the private details that have been kept from public view. Lindsey Graham was born on July 9, 1955, in the segregated town of Central South Carolina, to Millie and Florence James Graham. The young Graham didn't have the easy life that many of his peers in politics experienced. He spent his early years living with his family in a back room of the Sanitary Cafe, a modest establishment that doubled as both a bar and a restaurant. The shared space meant that Graham and his family had to use a bathroom shared with patrons of the establishment, giving him a first-hand understanding of life's struggles at an early age. The difficulties continued as the family moved from a bar to a trailer, then to a modest house as they tried to stabilize their situation. At just 12 years old, Graham became involved in his family's financial struggles, working at a local pool hall to help make ends meet. He was the oldest child, and this early responsibility shaped his character, instilling in him a strong sense of duty. However, it also exposed him to a harsher side of life. He often answered the phone calls of wives looking for their drunken husbands, an unsettling introduction to the chaos of adult responsibilities. What perhaps left the most lasting impact on Graham during these early years was the experience of living in the shadow of segregation. The bar his family owned, despite being located in a town where nearly a fifth of the population was African American, refused to serve black customers. This discriminatory practice stood as a stark reminder of the racial divides that defined the era and certainly influenced Graham's evolving views on race and equality in later years. Despite these challenges, Graham's academic career didn't shine brightly at first. He was a C student in high school, and his classmates scoffed at his ambitions of one day becoming governor of South Carolina. However, Graham was determined. After graduating from Daniel High School with an SAT score of just 800 out of 1,600, he defied expectations by gaining acceptance to the University of South Carolina. He made history as the first in his family to attend college. Yet life dealt Graham another devastating blow when, during his time at the University of South Carolina, he received an urgent call to come home. His mother, Millie, was battling advanced Hodgkin's lymphoma. Tragically, she passed away soon after, and only days later, his father died suddenly from a heart attack. In the midst of these heartbreaking losses, Graham became his sister's legal guardian, taking on the responsibility of caring for her while continuing his studies. After completing his undergraduate studies, Graham entered law school and graduated from the University of South Carolina School of Law. However, it wasn't long before his life took another significant turn. In 1982, Graham joined the United States Air Force, beginning his service as a judge advocate in the Judge Advocate General's Corps, JAG, where he quickly rose through the ranks. He would serve with distinction for over 3 decades, becoming the first person to hold the position of chief prosecutor for the Air Force in Europe. While serving in the Air Force, Graham found himself on the front lines of several high-profile legal cases, including one in which he defended an Air Force pilot accused of using marijuana. This exposure to military injustice caught the attention of the public, and his views on military policy were shaped by his experiences, leading him to become a prominent voice in military law. In fact, Graham's service in Iraq and Afghanistan earned him the Bronze Star, highlighting his dedication to his country. Yet all along, Graham's personal and political aspirations simmered beneath the surface. His political career began in 1994 when South Carolina Congressman Butler Derrick retired after 20 years in office. Graham, with his military background, ambitious drive, and deep connections in the Republican Party, saw this as his moment. With the support of Republican heavyweights like Strom Thurmond, Graham threw his hat in the ring for the congressional seat. His campaign was one for the books. Graham's blend of military service, hard-nosed determination, and strong conservative ideals resonated with voters. He won the Republican primary by a comfortable margin, securing 52% of the vote. In the general election, Graham triumphed over Democratic State Senator James Bryan, winning 60% of the vote and cementing his place in the U.S. House of Representatives. It was the beginning of his political dynasty, marking the beginning of what would be a decades-long career in Washington. In the years that followed, Graham's political career skyrocketed. He became one of the most vocal and controversial Republican senators, aligning himself with the party's most conservative factions, especially on issues like defense, the military, and the role of government. His outspoken nature and his shifting alliances often made him a polarizing figure, but it also kept him relevant and at the center of major political debates. But even as Graham's career flourished, his private life remained largely hidden from the public eye. His romantic relationships, personal values, and the true nature of his connections remained a mystery to most. In the world of politics, especially in a career like Graham's, much is often left unsaid. Behind the closed doors of Capitol Hill, there are stories of complicated relationships and alliances, some that have shaped the man we know today. His personal life, just like his political career, has not been without its complications. Though Graham has never married and has remained somewhat elusive about his relationships, speculation has swirled for years. The public has long been intrigued by the senator's private life, and questions about his sexuality, his partners, and his deep personal convictions have persisted in the shadows. What we do know is that Lindsey Graham's career in Washington has been defined by his ability to navigate complex and often dangerous political waters. He has survived political challenges, personal scrutiny, and shifting allegiances with an almost unflappable resolve. Whether it was his staunch support of military intervention, his ever-evolving stance on issues like immigration and civil rights, or his controversial backing of certain policies, Graham has made his mark on American politics in a way few can match. And yet, despite the public's insatiable curiosity about his personal life, Graham has remained a figure wrapped in mystery. As he continues to serve in the Senate, one can't help but wonder what lies behind the carefully crafted persona he projects to the world. While his political career continues to thrive, it seems that the most compelling story surrounding Lindsey Graham might just be the one that he has kept hidden from the public eye all these years. Lindsey Graham, the senior U.S. Senator from South Carolina, is a political figure who has managed to stay relevant and influential over the decades despite facing significant challenges and evolving alliances. Widely known for his controversial and sometimes unpredictable nature, Graham has made his mark on Capitol Hill and the wider political landscape. His role in American politics, particularly within the Republican Party, has been cemented by his positions on defense, foreign policy, and his close ties with the conservative base. Yet, despite his public success, there's much about his private life and complex relationships that remain somewhat of a mystery. To truly understand Lindsey Graham, it's essential to take a step back, analyze his rise, his struggles, and the quiet moments that have shaped him into the figure we know today. Lindsey Olin Graham was born on July 9, 1955, in the racially segregated town of Central South Carolina. Growing up in a modest household, his family faced significant financial difficulties, which deeply impacted his childhood. Raised by his mother, Millie, and father, Florence James Graham, Lindsey's early life was anything but easy. His family lived in the back room of their bar, the Sanitary Cafe, a place where patrons not only dined but also drank and socialized. For young Graham, the experience was a tough introduction to the real world. From a very young age, Graham had to mature quickly, taking on responsibilities like helping to run the bar and even taking calls from wives who were concerned about their husbands drinking. Such experiences exposed him to the complexities and often harsh realities of life in small-town America. Graham also witnessed the deep divides of racial segregation firsthand. Despite his town's significant African-American population, the bar his family ran was one of the many institutions that upheld racial discrimination. The legacy of segregation stayed with Graham throughout his career, and he has since spoken about the lasting impact these experiences had on his values and political beliefs. As a teenager, Graham wasn't the model student. He was a C student, and many of his classmates laughed when he expressed his dream of one day becoming the governor of South Carolina. Despite a less-than-ideal academic record, Graham persisted and achieved what many thought was impossible. He became the first member of his family to attend college. He graduated from the University of South Carolina with a law degree in 1981, setting the stage for a future in politics. But just as he was beginning to settle into life as a college student, Graham's world was shattered. His mother, Millie, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and before long, she passed away. A few days later, his father died unexpectedly from a heart attack. At just 21 years old, Graham found himself not only mourning the loss of both parents, but also taking on the responsibility of raising his younger sister. This sense of duty would follow him throughout his life, influencing both his personal and political decisions. After law school, Graham's life took another dramatic turn when he enlisted in the U.S. Air Force in 1982. Joining the Judge Advocate General's Corps, JAG, Graham's military service became an integral part of his identity. Serving both domestically and overseas, he worked as an Air Force defense attorney and later as a prosecutor. His military service laid the foundation for many of the positions he would later take as a member of Congress, particularly on issues related to defense, national security, and veterans affairs. In 1994, Lindsey Graham saw an opportunity to make his mark on South Carolina's political scene. Longtime Congressman Butler Derrick, a Democrat, retired, and Graham decided to run for the now open seat. With his military background and a strategic push from Republican Senator Strom Thurmond, Graham made his bid for the U.S. House of Representatives. Despite fierce competition, Graham won the Republican primary and then clinched the seat in the general election with a solid victory. His success was emblematic of the Republican Revolution sweeping the nation at the time. It was the beginning of his rise within the South Carolina Republican establishment. Graham's career continued to skyrocket in the late 1990s. He was easily re-elected to his third term in 1998, running unopposed in one of the most secure electoral districts in the country. The following year, he set his sights on a new challenge. Senator Strom Thurmond, a living legend in South Carolina politics, had announced his retirement. For Graham, it was a golden opportunity to move to the next level. Running for the Senate in 2002, Graham faced off against Alex Sanders, the former president of the College of Charleston and a former state court judge. Though Sanders had an impressive resume, Graham's aggressive and well-funded campaign won the day. He triumphed with 54% of the vote, ushering in a new era of leadership in South Carolina politics. With this win, Graham became the state's first new U.S. senator since Fritz Hollings took office in 1966. In 2008, Graham faced a surprising challenge within his own party. Buddy Witherspoon, a prominent South Carolina Republican figure, took him on in the Republican primary. To many, it seemed like a David versus Goliath battle, but Graham emerged victorious in a landslide. His broad appeal within the state, especially in rural counties, helped him secure the primary and set the stage for his re-election campaign. In the general election, Graham faced a largely underfunded Democratic challenger. Despite the stiff competition, Graham continued his hold on the South Carolina electorate, winning re-election easily. By 2014, Lindsey Graham's political career had reached an interesting crossroads. Despite his success, Graham found himself facing the strongest opposition of his career. His political flexibility and willingness to work with Democrats had earned him the ire of the conservative wing of the Republican Party. As his approval ratings dipped, he became a prime target for a primary challenge from more conservative forces within his own party, including the Tea Party movement. For the first time in years, Graham seemed vulnerable. But Graham knew how to navigate such challenges. He put his political machine into overdrive, securing thousands of volunteers and boosting his presence across the state. He built relationships with potential challengers and secured key endorsements. By the time the election came around, Graham's efforts had paid off, and he won by a decisive margin. His victory was not just about political savvy. It was a testament to his resilience and ability to unite different factions of the South Carolina Republican Party. Despite his success, Graham began to toy with the idea of running for president. In 2015, he officially entered the 2016 race, but his campaign failed to gain traction. In a crowded field of strong Republican personalities, Graham struggled to make an impact, polling near the bottom of the pack. While his candidacy never gained the momentum he had hoped for, his frequent clashes with Donald Trump kept him in the media spotlight. At one point, Graham referred to Trump as a jackass and unfit for office. But as the 2016 race wore on, Graham's relationship with Trump began to shift. By 2017, just months after Trump's victory, Graham began to show signs of rapprochement. In a surprising meeting at the White House, Graham and Trump found common ground. By 2018, they were golfing together. Graham publicly declared his support for Trump's re-election campaign in 2020, leaving many of his previous critics stunned. This about-face marked a dramatic change in Graham's political approach and revealed his ability to adapt in the ever-shifting landscape of American politics. Today, Lindsey Graham remains one of the most influential Republican figures in the Senate, serving as a voice of reason for some and a lightning rod for others. His support for Trump, combined with his occasional departure from party lines on issues like immigration and national security, makes him a unique figure in modern American politics. Over the years, his ability to balance the interests of South Carolina's conservative base with his own personal views has ensured his political longevity. However, what's perhaps most intriguing about Graham is his ability to remain both relevant and controversial in a world where political loyalty and ideological purity are often seen as paramount. His story is one of evolution, compromise, and survival, traits that have allowed him to endure in a world that often punishes those who shift allegiances. Whether you agree with his politics or not, there's no denying that Lindsey Graham has built a legacy that will resonate in South Carolina and Washington for many years to come. Lindsey Graham, a man who has risen through the ranks of American politics to become one of the most prominent Republican figures in the Senate, has always maintained a carefully crafted public persona. He is known for his staunch views on foreign policy, his relentless support for the military, and his close ties with the conservative base of his home state, South Carolina. However, beneath the well-polished public image, there lies a complex, personal story, one marked by deep family loss, personal relationships, and at times, controversy. While much has been written about his career and political alliances, the truth about Graham's private life, his relationships, and the challenges he's faced have often been less explored. When Lindsey Graham was just 22 years old, his world was turned upside down. In the span of a few short months, he lost both of his parents. His mother, Millie, had been battling Hodgkin's lymphoma, and despite Graham's best efforts to care for her, she passed away. Shortly after her death, Graham received another devastating blow. His father, Florence James Graham, died suddenly from a heart attack. At that moment, Graham became the legal guardian of his 13-year-old sister, Darlene. The weight of this responsibility was immense for a young man who had just lost both parents, but Graham took on the role with devotion and love. Raising his sister became a central part of his life, and the siblings became inseparable. This bond between Graham and his sister, Darlene, has always remained strong. In fact, when Graham ran for president in 2015, Darlene made it clear that she wanted to be part of the campaign trail, to humanize her brother and show voters the softer, more caring side of his character, something that was often overshadowed by his tough political persona. She saw the campaign as an opportunity to highlight the side of Graham that the public might not always see. This deep family connection has always been at the core of Graham's character, shaping both his personal and professional decisions. Despite the intense scrutiny surrounding his political life, Lindsey Graham's romantic history remains largely uneventful, or at least publicly so. He has had a few relationships, but none of them have led to a lasting partnership. During his time at law school, Graham had a brief relationship with a woman named Debbie, but it fizzled out. Then, while stationed in Germany as part of the U.S. Air Force, he dated a fellow JAG officer named Carol. Carol later went on to serve on Colin Powell's staff, but their relationship did not last either. The one relationship that came closest to marriage was with Sylvia, an air hostess whom Graham met while stationed at a military base in Germany. They were together for a year, and the relationship had real potential, but ultimately, circumstances and logistics pulled them apart. Sylvia's elderly mother couldn't relocate to South Carolina, and Graham wasn't planning to remain in Germany indefinitely. As a result, the couple decided to part ways. Graham's romantic life has been largely private, with no high-profile relationships or marriages. His lack of a public partner has fueled curiosity, particularly when rumors surfaced in 2020 that Graham might be gay. The allegations came from Sean Harding, a gay adult film star who claimed that Graham used the nickname Lady G among male sex workers. These bombshell accusations immediately went viral, reigniting speculation that Graham might have had same-sex relationships, especially since he had previously been a vocal opponent of same-sex marriage. Despite these accusations, Graham has consistently denied any suggestion of homosexuality. He has publicly declared that he is straight, though the rumors have lingered, especially given his conservative stance on LGBTQ+ rights. The entire episode shed light on the complexities of Graham's personal life and his political views, particularly his opposition to same-sex marriage, which stood in sharp contrast to the growing acceptance of LGBTQ+ rights within the broader Republican Party. While Lindsey Graham's personal life may be filled with unanswered questions, what is known is that he leads a relatively quiet and private life in his hometown of Seneca, South Carolina. The small, charming city is located near the Blue Ridge Mountains, offering Graham a peaceful respite from the political turmoil of Washington, D.C. It is here that Graham owns a significant piece of real estate, a 10,000-square-foot office building that he purchased in 2007 for $2.5 million. Over the years, the property has appreciated in value, and today it's worth approximately $4 million. This building serves as one of the anchor points of his life outside of politics, a place where he can connect with his local community while maintaining his private affairs away from the spotlight. In addition to the Seneca property, Graham owns a brick townhouse in Washington, D.C., which he bought in 1997 for $225,000. The value of this property, like his Seneca building, has increased over the years, with its current estimated value hovering around $800,000. The townhouse serves as Graham's residence while he's working in the nation's capital, a convenient and comfortable space that allows him to balance his demanding role as a U.S. Senator with the personal privacy he values so deeply. This duality of his lifestyle, balancing a high-profile career with a quiet home life, has been a key factor in Graham's ability to maintain both his political career and his personal well-being. Lindsey Graham's ascent through the ranks of South Carolina politics was both calculated and serendipitous. His entry into the political arena began in earnest when he ran for U.S. Congress in 1994, after the retirement of longtime Democratic Representative Butler Derrick. Graham capitalized on the political climate of the time, emerging as a charismatic and ambitious candidate. With the backing of Senator Strom Thurmond, Graham successfully navigated the Republican primary, eventually winning the general election to represent South Carolina's 3rd congressional district. Over the years, Graham earned a reputation as a skilled and often unpredictable politician. He was able to win re-election in 1996, even after facing a formidable challenger in Debbie Dorn, a member of the influential Dorn family. Despite the challenge, Graham won re-election with a solid 60% of the vote, demonstrating his political strength and ability to connect with voters across the state. In 2002, when Senator Strom Thurmond decided to retire, Graham saw his chance to step into a bigger role. He ran for Thurmond's Senate seat and easily secured victory in the Republican primary. In the general election, he faced a tough opponent in Alex Sanders, a former state court judge and president of the College of Charleston. Nevertheless, Graham's campaign proved successful, and he won the seat with 54% of the vote, cementing his place in South Carolina politics. As Graham's political career progressed, he quickly learned how to navigate the tricky waters of national politics. His ability to form strategic alliances, even with members of the opposing party, allowed him to maintain a strong foothold in Washington. He knew how to balance his loyalty to the Republican Party with his own views, often finding common ground on issues like defense, national security, and veterans affairs. In 2014, as Graham faced his toughest challenge yet, a primary challenge from within his own party, he took a calculated approach. Rather than pandering to the more conservative elements of his base, Graham set out to broaden his appeal. He built an extensive political network known as the Graham Machine, which included hundreds of volunteers and staffers working across the state. He raised millions of dollars for his campaign, ensuring that his presence in South Carolina was felt from the rural areas to the big cities. The results were clear. Graham defeated his primary challenger by a wide margin, showing once again that he knew how to run a successful political campaign. He went on to win the general election as well, maintaining his status as a key player in the Republican Party. His victory in 2014 marked another milestone in his long and storied political career. Despite his continued success in the Senate, Graham harbored ambitions beyond South Carolina. In 2015, he announced his candidacy for president. He entered the 2016 Republican primary race with high hopes, but his campaign never gained significant momentum. His polling numbers were low, often barely registering in the national media. However, Graham's candidacy did bring attention to his more traditional political style, which sharply contrasted with the bombastic and often unpredictable nature of his rival, Donald Trump. During the 2016 Republican primary debates, few had as much verbal back and forth with Donald Trump as Lindsey Graham. Known for his sharp wit and biting criticism, Graham didn't hesitate to call out the business tycoon's unfiltered rhetoric and often unpredictable policy proposals. At one point, Graham famously referred to Trump as a jackass, labeling him unfit to hold office. The tension between the two was palpable. Graham, a seasoned politician with years of experience in Washington, was one of Trump's most vocal detractors in the early days of the race. His criticism didn't stop at personal insults, but extended to concerns over Trump's readiness to lead the country. Yet, despite his fervent opposition and fiery rhetoric, Graham's presidential bid didn't gain much traction. His campaign struggled to rise above the noise in a crowded field, and he ultimately dropped out, unable to secure a meaningful portion of the vote. However, just a few years later, Graham's relationship with Trump would take a sharp turn. After Trump's stunning victory in the 2016 election, the dynamic between the two men began to shift dramatically. It started with private meetings where Graham, initially skeptical of Trump's presidency, began to warm to the president's approach on certain issues. Over time, their rapport grew, and the senator from South Carolina, who had once vehemently criticized Trump, began publicly supporting him. By 2018, Graham had not only shifted his stance, but had fully aligned himself with Trump's policies. This transition, from outspoken critic to staunch ally, raised eyebrows in the political world. Many questioned how someone as seasoned and principled as Graham could go from calling Trump a jackass to endorsing him without reservation. However, it revealed a crucial aspect of Graham's political acumen: his ability to adapt and find common ground, even with someone as controversial and unconventional as Trump. In fact, Graham's endorsement of Trump for re-election in 2020 solidified his position within the Trump loyalist camp. The move wasn't just a shift in rhetoric, it was a tangible sign of his full embrace of Trump's vision for America. While this shift alienated some of his former supporters, it also cemented his place as a key ally to the president in the Senate. By aligning himself so closely with Trump, Graham ensured that he remained a powerful force in Republican politics. As of 2023, Lindsey Graham continues to be one of the most influential figures in Washington. His career has evolved in ways few could have predicted. The man who once stood in sharp opposition to Trump is now one of his most loyal allies, using his influence to push Trump's agenda within the Senate. Whether you agree with his views or not, Graham's ability to adapt, form strategic alliances, and maintain his political relevance speaks to his savvy in navigating the complex world of American politics. In an era where political landscapes can change in an instant, Lindsey Graham's career is a testament to survival and adaptation. His story, which began in the small town of central South Carolina and took him all the way to the Senate and beyond, is still unfolding. He continues to be a key player in shaping the future of the Republican Party and American politics at large. His legacy, for better or for worse, is one of resilience, adaptability, and an ever-evolving political journey. As Graham's political career moves forward, one thing is clear: his ability to adjust, pivot, and remain relevant makes him a figure to watch for years to come. His story is far from finished, and as with all great political figures, the final chapters have yet to be written.